People can get something to drink if you want something to drink. You can get something to drink if you want something to drink. Gee, did you turn the light on? Oh, wait. Can you hear me okay? Let's see if they can hear me okay. You're so far away.
Come closer.
You can come a little closer.
Do you want to be just like the camera?
Can you hear me okay, Steve? All right? Okay, excellent. Good, yeah. This feels a little cozier in here. Good morning, everyone. Wednesday. It's the third full day of our session. How is everyone feeling? Yes, I'm looking especially at Molly and Jessica, the newbies. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good? Okay, good. How's everybody else feeling? Sore. Yes, that can happen in session. Soreness. Yes, the body is aching, not used to just sitting in one place. It's very physical practice. Yeah, that reminds me of the first time I sat session, right? I went all the way to Zen Mountain Center for the first 7-day session. We had been doing weekend sessions, right? But this was the first 7-day session we were doing. And I was really nervous because I was flying from Hawaii to California, Los Angeles, and then up to Zen Mountain Center. So the flight was okay. I was just nervous, like, what is this sitting going to be like? And there's all these serious Zen people, not to mention my Zumi Roshi, the Zen master. And here I am, I'm just like a regular person. And so, yes, I remember they had even longer sits. I think they started sitting maybe at 5 in the morning. And they would have 2-hour blocks of time throughout the whole day. So I guess total about 8 hours of sitting. And my legs were killing me the first day, the second day, the third day, I think pretty much and so what I did was I massaged my legs during the break. I'd go back to the place where we slept, the dormitory, and I just massaged my legs. And that helped me to get through, but oh, it was painful. And all these seasoned Zen people were sitting so strong and not moving, and I was like, oh, I'm like dying over here. But one really wonderful thing was they asked me to be a server, to serve the food, which meant you got to get up a little early for the last sit to go get ready to serve the food, because the food would be served in the zendo. So people had their oryoki bowls by their zabuton, and they pulled it out. They get up to stretch after the sit was over. Then they sit back down and get ready for oryoki bowls. That was a lot of sitting there. But the servers, we got to stand up, and there's a whole way to serve the food that's so beautiful, almost like what Jackie did with the tea, right? There's the bowing, then you go down on your knees, you have a pot or you have a thing, and you're in front of 3 people usually. I mean, there was a lot of people in there. There were 4 servers, we each had a quadrant, and then you serve that way. All with the hand signals and everything, and then you stand up. So you would have to be able to go up and down, on knees. My knees were stronger then. So yeah, but anyway, the whole experience was really wonderful. It was intense, the sitting was intense, but really unforgettable in many ways. There were these, Roshi was the head trainee, right? He was the shuso. For 3 months he was there. And we had just gotten married, maybe a couple of years in, when he decided he would renew his vows, and which meant he would be studying with Maizumi Roshi from Hawaii, to Los Angeles, which meant he went back for some retreats, because you have to do Doksan. There was no Zoom Doksan in those days. Now, we do have Zoom Doksan. And then he was selected to be the head trainee, which was a 3-month practice period. At the end of every month, they had sesshin, a 7-day sesshin. And they worked together. They sat morning and evening. They had a schedule other than sesshin. So I decided to go to the last sesshin, which would be the ceremony at the end, the Dharma combat and everything. There's a great, I want to share this little story also, because while Roshi was there, I was feeling very lonely, right? You're just married, and he's gone for 3 months, right? And our dog died in that time period, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this alone. But anyway, so I decided I was going to write Roshi a letter, Maizumi Roshi, a letter. Who knows what was in my mind at the time, except that I had been practicing hula. And so in the letter, I wrote, well, it looks like we're gonna have a Zen center here, and that's okay with me because Roshi is on the path to becoming a teacher. But there has to be hula at the Zen center. And that was what I wrote in the card, card or letter, whatever, and I sent it to him during this 3-month period. So, no response, whatever, it's okay. I just felt I had to say it. There had to be hula in the Zen Center. So we had a great session, I mean, really great. There were all of these Zen, impressive people there who were then studying with Roshi, right? Like Genpo Roshi, Shishin Wick Roshi, they were all students, Jitsujo, Nikoli Roshi was also his student there. Yeah. So it went really well. Oh, and the other thing about the servers, well, we have to eat after everybody is served, but we got to eat outside on a picnic table underneath the trees. It was like so great. And the weather was beautiful. It was summer, and Zen Mountain Center is in kind of like a little bit of a canyon, with rocks, and nature. It's really nature, and it's fabulous. So when we get home, Roshi says, "Oh, by the way, Maizumi Roshi wanted me to give this to you." And I was like, well, what is it? So I opened up the gift, and there was a golden Buddha. And if anybody has noticed, it is sitting in the kitchen on the windowsill over there. Has anybody noticed that golden Buddha? Yeah, so you might check it out when you're up there next, if we ever go up there again. But anyway, so I'm like, and this is a beautiful golden Buddha. He is holding in one hand a lotus flower, and in the other hand, the fingers are pointing to the ground, the earth. And I thought, I wonder if this is an answer to my statement question of there has to be hula in the Zendo. It must be, yes. It's a gift. He gave me a gift. It must be yes. I don't know, but it must be. Right? Who knows? I didn't know. I didn't know the story also about that Buddha. I was just starting out and learning all the different stories about the Buddha. So how many years has that been? That was in about 1994. That's like 31 years ago. And just recently, I took this course, an 8-week course on aging that Eve Marco gave with the Zen Peacemakers. It was every other week for, 8 weeks. She talked about aging. And in one of the classes, I think it was called Gravity's Sag. Gravity's Sag. This is what happens when we get old, gravity takes over, right? And she showed a picture of the Buddha. It was the same golden Buddha. And I was like, that's the Buddha that's in the kitchen, on my kitchen. It's always been in the kitchen altar. And then she told the story, right? When the Buddha decided after, the Buddha left, he was the son of a king in India. And right before he was born, the king went to some fortune, seers, right, into the future to ask about what his son was going to be like. So the seer said, well, he's either going to be a great king or a great spiritual person. And so his father said, oh, I don't want him to be a spiritual person. I want him to be a king like me. And so he sheltered everybody. I mean, he sheltered the prince from the world, the outside world. He didn't want his son to see the outside world. Very sheltered. Kind of like us when we don't watch the news and, things like that, right? But one day, Siddhartha decided, what's beyond these walls here of the palace? He had everything he needed in the palace, or ever could want in the palace. But he said, what's beyond these walls? So he asked his attendant to bring his beautiful horse, Kantaka, I think is the name of his horse, and Chana, I think, was his attendant, and wanted to take him outside the walls. So he went, and the attendant said, sure, I'll do that for you. And the first time he saw a man who was really sick. And he said, Chana, what is this? And he said, it's a man who's very sick. And he was like kind of shocked. And then another time he went out and he saw somebody who was very old, very, very old. And he said, Chana, what is this? Chana said, well, this happens, we get old. The third time they went out, he saw a dead body. Someone had just died, and he said, what is this? And Chana said, it's, we die. It happens. And Siddhartha was taken aback. And the fourth time, and final time, he went out and he saw a man in saffron robes with a shaved head. And he said, Chana, what is this? And Chana said, it's a person who has taken vows to become a monk, left home. So those 4 experiences had a big impact on Siddhartha. And he said, I'm leaving home. I have to find out what life is really about. And so he left his wife, his beautiful wife, and his newborn son, and everything in the palace, and went out, left everything, to find out what life was about. And he practiced many austerities, hardly any sleep, hardly any food or water. And then he decided when he was on the verge of death that this is not the way to go. The extremes are not the way to go, but the middle path is the way to go. So he said, I'm going to sit under this tree, the Bo tree, and I am not moving until I find out what I'm seeking here. What is life about? I'm not moving. And that's what we're doing right now. We're sitting and not moving until the bell rings. So I think the night before, like right before he was going to be enlightened or awakened, Mara, who is supposed to be like the deity of delusion, right? Kind of like the devil, right? The Mara comes to him and just puts all of these doubts into his mind. It's like, who are you? Who do you think you are? That you think you can find the truth? Who? do you think you are? And the Buddha said, or who gives you the authority? Who gives you the authority? And the Buddha says, the earth is my witness. That's the story of the Buddha. And I had heard that story, through the years, but it didn't really kind of hit home, all right? It wasn't this aha moment until I went to Eve's class, which was just a few months ago. And in the class, she was talking about this Buddha and telling the story again, which I had heard the story before. And after that, people who were all online, all over the world, had such wonderful things to say about nature. One woman said, she's part of a sangha that goes out to be in nature regularly, like weekly, trying to make that connection with nature, the earth, because that's who we are, right? We are the earth. And we could not be here without the earth. We could not be here without air, without water, without trees. We could not be alive. That great interconnection. And then, maybe it was the next day or the next day, I went, oh my God, the Buddha, the golden Buddha. That was my Zumi Roshi's answer about hula in the Zendo. Because hula is nature. It could not be without nature. This dance could not be without nature. And there it was, all this time. Oh yeah, I think it's a yes. I think it's a yes. I don't know though. And then after taking the class and hearing people talk about their connection to nature, made me realize that his answer was such a Zen master's answer. And that was my koan all these years. That's been my koan all these years, my personal life koan. Does hula and Zen go together? That's who I am. Koans are about your life. They are about your life. So some of you are practicing koans, which is exciting because it's talking about aspects of your life here and realizing, who am I? So I was just really moved by my Zumi Roshi's bountiful spaciousness and goodness in sharing with me this gift. After going for 30 years, I think it's a yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about koans today. I'm really getting into koans, which I think is really great. This book, The Hidden Lamp, stories from 21st centuries, from 25 centuries of awakened women, 100 stories of 25 centuries of awakened women. Susan Moon and Florence Kaplow edited these. They've been finding, people have been giving Translators and scholars have been finding these stories about women in Buddhism for the last 2,500 years and sharing them with Susan and Florence Caplow. And so they collated them into this book, and they asked 100 women, Buddhist women, to comment on one. Commentaries, which is like we do our koan studies here. Most of the commentaries are by men, you know, Zen masters, men. But this book is of women reflecting. So I'm gonna just, I'm taking a lot from the introduction now. This is Florence and Susan talking, Sue Moon. It says, the Hidden Lamp is a book of meetings, kind of like right now. They are 100 stories of awakened women. People meet together intimately without turning away. They bring up the Dharma together, sometimes kindly, sometimes fiercely, sometimes serving each other tea. And then Sue and Florence say, we too have been meeting for a few years now as we have worked together on this book. As we write this introduction, we are in a house by the Pacific Ocean, making each other cups of dragon well tea, working across from one another at an old wooden table, with pages and pages of beloved stories piled like leaves between us. Out the window, the tips of the beach grasses are shining in the dunes. The power of writing is so amazing, isn't it? So they say they call the book The Hidden Lamp because while the lamp of Buddhist women's wisdom has been burning through the centuries, its light has been hidden from view. There are not just monks and nuns and teachers, but also husbands, wives, teenagers, hermits, cooks, courtesans, and uppity grandmothers. Yes, she said, they say, this is a book that features women, but there are men here too in almost every story, because this is a book of human stories, human teachings. It was written in 2013. And they wrote it because they were trying to address an absence for both men and women within Buddhism, and they go, and most other religious traditions for that matter, the invisibility of women ancestors and their wisdom. In every family, we have both grandmothers and grandfathers. If one of them are missing, something in our own hearts would be incomplete. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, I never met because he died in the incarceration concentration camps of World War II. So there is a chunk missing there in my heart from my grandfather. And now, they're saying never before have women, Buddhist women, teachers been so prominent or empowered. That is true. It is now quite an amazing time for women in Buddhism. So I like how they describe koans here. Koans are short powerful narratives about meetings between Dharma practitioners and about experiences on the path. The word koan is a Japanese form of the Chinese word gungan, which means public case or public announcements, since the encounters mainly took place in a Dharma hall setting like this. A koan, therefore, Heinrich Dumoulin writes, a koan, therefore, presents a challenge and an invitation to take seriously what has been announced, to ponder it, and respond to it. So it's something to ponder, because these, you can't always answer them right away, because they're not all intellectual. And Ruth Fuller Sasaki, a wonderful Buddhist who translated the book Zen Dust. Somebody borrowed that book, by the way. Anyway, Ruth Fuller Sasaki says this about koans. The koan is not a conundrum to be solved by a nimble wit. Nor, in my opinion, is it ever a paradoxical statement, except to those who view it from outside the koan. When the koan is resolved, it is realized to be a simple and clear statement of the consciousness which it has helped to awaken. Right? We're all trying to be clear here. Right? So these koans are helping us to be clear as we ponder them and try to figure out what it's saying here and how it pertains to our life. And they also continue in their introduction, because I know I felt the same way. As we've shared these stories and koans with our fellow practitioners, we have noticed that some people feel a wave of anxiety at the word koan. Yes, that's me, that was me, for sure. They associate koans with something mystifying and impenetrable, with right or wrong answers, and with grimacing Zen masters holding big sticks. That's the Rinzai method for sure. But these stories, they say, are intended as mirrors for you, for your own life and practice. They're mirrors for your own life and practice. Each story is a gift from one woman ancestor to you. This one here, and I'm going to share one soon. Whether you're male or female, you can sit quietly with it, find inspiration or encouragement within it, or take it all the way to the heart of your life. Only you can know what the gift may be. All right, are you ready for one of these stories? Okay. So I opened the book yesterday, because I thought I was yesterday. Okay, where is it? Here it is. Okay. This is Yoshihime's Look. Yoshihime's, and this is from Japan, 14th century story. Yoshihime was a nun at Tokeiji. And Tokeiji, it was a nunnery in Kamakura, Rinzai nunnery. Yoshihime was a nun at Tokeiji and the daughter of a general. She was very strong, and her nickname was Devil Girl. She wanted to meet with the teacher at the monastery of Engakuji, but the gatekeeper monk barred her way with a shout. "What is it?" the gate through which the Buddhas come into the world. What is it? The gate through which the Buddhas come into the world. Yoshihime grabbed his head and forced it between her legs, saying, "Look, look." The monk said, "In the middle, there is a fragrance of wind and dew." Yoshihime said, "This monk, he's not fit to keep the gate. He ought to be looking after the garden." The gatekeeper ran into the temple and reported this to the teacher's attendant, who said, "Let me test her." So the attendant went to the gate and asked her again, "What is it? The gate through which the Buddhas come into the world?" Yoshihime grabbed his head and held it between her legs, saying, "Look, look." The attendant said, "The Buddhas of the three worlds come, giving light." The Buddhas of the three worlds come, giving light. Yoshihime said, "This monk is one with the eye. He saw the 84,000 gates all thrown open." This monk is one with the eye. He saw the 84,000 gates all thrown open. Wow. When I first read this, I went, "Oh no, I can't talk about this one." And I said, because I've been training into approaching things that are difficult. I've been trying to open to things that are difficult. And sex is something I don't like to talk about, which is interesting, right? And this one, she's got his head between her legs at her crotch. And I said, but then I read, "The Buddhas of the three worlds come, giving light." Right? We are born from a woman's cervix and vagina. We are Buddhas. We are giving light. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. Why don't I like to talk about cervix and vagina? That's interesting. What fixed thought or idea do I have that makes it hard for me to even say? I can say cervix easy, but vagina, what is it that makes it difficult for me to say this word? What fixed thought do I have in my mind? Because I think this is important. This is where all the Buddhas come out of. Why is this something kind of uncomfortable and bad? Why? The Buddhas come out. Buddha was born, he was a man. He brought so much light to this world. Actually, I think in the story, the queen gave birth to the Buddha out of the side of her, side, which is interesting. So these are great, juicy questions to ask when you're up against something that is kind of hard and uncomfortable. Our practice is to bear witness, to let go of these fixed ideas. If you can even see what they are, that's causing the discomfort, even better. But a lot of times we can't because it's so pushed down, because it's so shameful, bad. Good girls don't talk about vaginas. Interesting, why not? Why not? So in our practice of a Zen peacemaker, there are 3 tenets that are underlying our practice here at our Zen Center. Not knowing, which means letting go of fixed ideas about ourselves and the world. Letting go. Let go of that tight grip. Why am I holding so tightly here? Why? Some kind of conditioning happened. So let's kind of let go a little bit. Letting go of fixed ideas. Opening to what's uncomfortable in life. Shining the light on that darkness, what you've kept hidden. Shining the light so it can breathe, so it can heal. And then when you do not knowing, the first tenet, you have to do the second. They kind of go together, bearing witness, which means staying with that uncomfortableness. Noticing, how is my body feeling now? Where is that tightness? Well, that's interesting, without judgment. Letting go of the judgment, right? You're trying to learn here and not go according to some pattern or habit that doesn't serve anymore. Bearing witness. Attention. Attention. That's what our Zen practice is about. Attending, listening deeply without judgment. It's not about not thinking or using your reason. Absolutely, that is part of it too. But it's just that old conditioning we're trying to let go, because it's layers and layers of it. So I'm going to read some of Judith Simmer Brown's reflection. And Judith is she is a distinguished professor of contemplative and religious studies emerita at Naropa, and a senior Buddhist teacher and acharya in the Shambhala Buddhist lineage. That's Trungpa Rinpoche's lineage. And she's written the book, Dakini's Warm Breath, The Feminine Principle in Tibetan Buddhism. This is her reflection. This koan makes me laugh with delight. All those old monks of Engakuji were so afraid of women in their midst that they were compelled to test the women's Dharma insight in order to allow them entrance. They were no match for our devil girl Yoshihime. The classic case asks about the gate through which Buddhas come into the world. Immediately, women understand the most obvious answer, through the cervix and vagina. Not only Buddhas, but all beings enter the world through their mother's vagina. Only the most obtuse monk would not think of this. What did he say? In the middle, there is a fragrance of wind and dew. Rather than hiding or ignoring her gender identity, Yoshihime flaunts it by pressing the gatekeeper's head between her legs, flustering him completely. This is all the more potent because of the prevailing views of the unclean, repulsive qualities of women's vagina. Devil girl knows how to deal with the misogynist gatekeeper. As she continues, this is kind of interesting. Misogyny is not just a distant memory. Years ago, I was the leader of a predominantly male international delegation to Japan. Our Japanese hosts were extremely nervous as they had never dealt with a woman leader before. They seemed terrified. Every time I tried to work out our schedule and logistics, they looked over my shoulder at the men, asking them questions meant for me. Later, in a tiny country gift shop, I found a beautiful set of teacups, one large and the other small. Spontaneously, I turned to the eldest of our Japanese hosts, asking incredulously, "This couldn't be for a man and a woman?" Deeply embarrassed, he reluctantly nodded, and for a moment we laughed together. Everything changed. Thereafter, our host related to me awkwardly but respectfully, and we were able to laugh about the discomfort. But there is another level of Yoshihime's wordless answer to the gatekeeper's question. The revered Prajna Paramita, or perfect wisdom, what we chanted the morning, the Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra, the most sublime of Dharma teachings, is sometimes embodied in a female form and called the mother of all Buddhas. Only through realizing her inexpressible teachings of emptiness, which is also suchness, can anyone realize their true nature and become awakened. As the Prajnaparamita in 8,000 lines says, she is the perfect wisdom who gives birthless birth to all Buddhas. And through the sublimely awakened ones, it is Mother Prajnaparamita alone who turns the wheel of true teaching. Okay, we'll have to go on because she's going to talk about the cervix next. A woman's body is a central symbol of emptiness in India and Tibet, where she manifests as the elusive and awakened Dakini, or sky dancer, the Buddhist goddess trickster of yogic wisdom, an aspect of the mother of wisdom. Her cervix is the symbol of the esoteric sacred mandala of emptiness and suchness, expressed in the renowned diagram of double-cross triangles. If you look upstairs where the golden Buddha is, Roshi had these, you'll see two round ceramic or plaster discs, and it has those triangles on them. I didn't know that myself. Those triangles are the esoteric sacred mandala of emptiness and suchness. Double-cross triangle. For the conventional mind, the dualities of purity and impurity, male and female, awakened and confused, are resolved in these symbols of emptiness. Because emptiness includes all of that, all the dualities. When Yoshihime presses the gatekeeper's face to her crotch, she is testing his own awakening. The gate through which all Buddhas come, she turns the question back on him. Look, look. She is asking him to investigate the gate from his own experience. Not some idea, from his own direct experience now, here and now, in this body. In his affected answer, the image, the fragrance of wind and dew, is meant to evoke non-duality between the extremes of her two legs, the resolution of being and non-being, form and emptiness, ultimate and provisional truth. However, his response does not meet the direct, earthy, embodied wisdom to which she was pressing his face. It resolves no dualities. She goes, who but a complete fake would comment about wind and dew when pressed into the crotch of a woman? I don't mean, okay. But the abbot's attendant has a deeper response to Yoshihime's look, look. He does not attempt to change the subject or ignore her earthy wisdom. He proclaims that all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future come through this gate of the mother. When he speaks of giving light, he is acknowledging the name of the great Dharma hall of Engakuji, known as the Great Light Hall. All the awakened ones of all the Buddhas, and so all the awakened ones of Engakuji have passed through the cervix and vagina of the mother of all Buddhas. And so Yoshihime is to be revered and respected. In one flourish, he has flung open the manifold gates that are none other than the single gate of the mother. We prostrate to Yoshihime, the radiant devil girl. May we ourselves realize the Dharma gate of the mother. So that reference to the 84 Dharma gates is one definition is that it's a metaphor to all the innumerable paths to enlightenment, those 84,000 Dharma gates. I think we have some time for some discussion or thoughts. I like that, Yoshihime, the devil girl. I like that.
Well, Roshi, thank you so much for just your grace and just how lovely, teach the Dharma, just so gentle and sweet and really joyful. So lovely to be with you. And you said in terms of not judging, you said the statement, "Wow, that's interesting," and I really want to try that as a statement to everything that comes my way. Because as you said it, I felt, wow, what a great way to stop judgment. Because interest is about compassion. It is about saving all sentient beings from suffering. I have to first be interested. I have to care enough. So I really do want to try that as I take in things that I start to have this, muscle memory, like you were talking about, that it's false. What my mind or my body is telling me so many truths, but it's a memory. So I don't have to go and react. I can just stop with this language, That's interesting. And even let it land. I feel that it's a place for something to land so that I can step back and have a perspective of, you know, what might this person or this situation need? You know, not knowing, I don't know. So just cutting off my visceral reaction. And then I can take in, like, why does that hurt? Why does it make me sad? You know, is this about you or is this about something from 5 years ago? You know, so that's interesting. It's such a neutral place to be. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Something I've been
Can you speak up a little?
something I'm wondering is when you speak about women in Buddhism and bringing Buddhism to the world, obviously the practice of the sutra and meditation feels like it would be really hard to have a kid and do that. Like not only just from a time thing, but then like if you were to bring a child, like in other religions, let's say for example, you know, they bring a child to the service, and here I'm wondering, you know, could you bring a child to a meditation, you know, and what if they act up as children sometimes do, you know, how can you be a mother and also practice Buddhism?
So there's a couple of things in that your question there, right? Can you bring children to the center? And how can you be a mom and practice Buddhism, right? Those are like two main questions there. So we actually have started this parenting, mindful parenting group for parents who practice meditation and have children and have a very busy life and it's hard to sit. How do they practice, right? So for Zen Buddhists, sitting meditation is kind of a main thing that we do. But we've been teaching it here is how do you take your practice from the cushion into the world, like even with the children. And so, you know, that's a koan, a modern day koan there, right? How do you do that? Nikkoli Roshi, Roshi's teacher, she had 2 young children, and what she would do is when they went to bed, she would take turns sitting in the bedroom while they were sleeping. That would be her time to sit. And the children actually loved that. And I know that I've done that. Well, I've also, when we were with Bernie and the Zen Peacemakers, there were days, you know, that Roshi would get up early and he would just sit in the room while I was sleeping. And that was one of the nicest things, actually, I found. It was so kind of soothing thing. So you have to find time, you know, to sit, and it may be 5 minutes here, it might be 5 minutes there, but those are just, that's one example of how you can keep your practice, you know, alive. Because if you just go all the time and not give yourself something, you know, just a time to decompress a little bit, it's hard, right, to be kind and compassionate all the time. Yeah. And you know, who's to say that there's fierce, right, compassion as well that is necessary sometimes. You have to be fierce. You don't want them to get hurt. They gotta learn one way or the other, you know? And here we've started once a quarter. We have members of the Sangha who kind of do a little daycare and play with the kids, or, you know, have activities for them so their parents can sit. And maybe that'll be more in the future, but right now it's about one Sunday a quarter that we do this family day here. And interesting, they mentioned, or I read, in Kamakura, in about, in Kamakura, I think maybe the 14th century also, the samurai, as they began to study Zen, there's a lot of stories about, especially women actually, coming out from that area. And the devil girl is one of them, right? She was the daughter of a general, so he was definitely a samurai. And you can tell, right? She's like fierce, fierce. She's not gonna take any guff from anybody. Guff.
I have a general, well, first of all, this koan is so interesting because it's, without any explanation of it, my mind was boggled. I'm scared of koans.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, I think it's because I don't have much background knowledge of history and context in Buddhism to really make sense of them, so they seem like riddles, they seem like unsolvable riddles to me. So I don't really know what my question is, but when you hear a koan, is it okay to just read the interpretation right away?
Well, there's commentaries on it. So they're talking about the koan, but you have to personalize it for you. How does this koan, what does it mean? How am I the koan, what? So, and that comes, I think, for me, it came when I sat more. I was able to be in touch with how I really felt and what I was really thinking versus all the distractions that, you have to be focused when you're doing koan study. Because things get in the way, so easily. So, yeah, but this book is really wonderful. I think, I've been meaning to get a study group together on this book, and I think one of these days I will. Because I think they're so great, and they're looking at koans in a different way, not the usual way of how we do it here, but we can be creative with this, as long as we really take to heart, how, that question of just, who am I? That's a koan right there. Yeah, I'm June, I'm in this body, but I think there's something more. And that this is such a limited part of the whole. But it's not, it can get kind of, that small self can get us into trouble, right? Because it can be so small. In a way, it's just thinking about I, me, mine, me all the time, and the world is way larger than that. And so much more interconnected than an isolated self that we think we are. But realizing that, is also a koan. But you're only, mystified because you really don't know that much about it, and you're really just starting your sitting practice, so don't worry about it, just say, that's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. All right then, I think that is it for today. Thank you very much.
Okay, prepare for lunch, and whoever is on cleanup, kindly go upstairs to help Tenzo bring lunch down. And the others can help reset these in, or